Welcome to Balancing Acts, your guide to grow, profit, and scale. I'm your host, Linda Hamilton. I'm a CPA, certified exit planning advisor, and systemologist. For the past 30 years, I've been looking under the hoods of businesses to uncover what truly drives success. We know the numbers matter, but what the story behind the numbers uncovers hidden threats and opportunities. One thing I've noticed over and over is that success isn't just about working harder. It's about having the right strategies in place, about taking action, and about recognizing that all of your activities, your mindset, your process, your sales, everything affects your bottom line. And so today's problem we're going to talk about is what I call breaking seven figure barriers. And there's a 2% and a 9% problem. Only 9% of business owners, small business owners, actually break seven figures. Only 2% of women owned businesses break seven figures. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But our guest today, Betty Hines, the founder and CEO of Women Elevating Women, is here to help us understand and break that down. Why do so few break seven figures and often might even be hard to stay at seven figures? So, Betty, we've known each other a long time. Betty has been 20 years with the Women's Presidents Organization as a chapter chair. She formed Women Elevating Women in 2018 and has been very successful. And most recently, among her many awards, President Biden awarded Betty with a Lifetime Achievement Award. Welcome, Betty. I'm so glad to talk to you about unpacking this seven-figure barrier.
Thank you, Linda. And I am just overjoyed to have the opportunity to share my story and share our story.
Yes, yes. And so let's start with where your inspiration came from to create Women Elevating Women, also known as WOO, right?
Exactly. It all started having worked with WPO for, like you said, almost 20 years. Most of my working relationship has been with women who have revenues of $1 million up to billions. And I realized there was a gap. There was a gap for those women, that 8 to 10% in this country, who were trying to scale their businesses to a higher level, but just didn't have the tools, tips, and techniques to get there. And so that was inspiration. So I felt it was incumbent upon me to take my experience and bring it to those women into the market. And there we formed Women Elevating Women, because you don't have to do it alone. And that's where WOO comes from.
That's and we know that doing anything in business alone is not a recipe for success. And as I talked about in the open, it comes from, what are your strategies for actually breaking those barriers? So you mentioned that you saw that gap. Can we go a little deeper into what exactly the gap is?
Sure. A lot of the gaps when women are at that six figures, they plateau. They don't have the resources. They don't have the opportunities. They don't have the strategic introductions. That's the biggest gap, because you can have all the tools, but if you don't have the resources and the right connections, it's hard for you to elevate. That is why with the Women Elevating Women, I captured what we call the 5 pillars of success. And so I took the success of entrepreneurs and executives, married them together, and that is what we've introduced into our platform, our plateau. It is our mantra on how we scale businesses.
And I do want to go into all of your pillars as a discussion, but is there something about mindset first that it takes to actually get from a six-figure big business? And, that could be anywhere. I think 88% of women make less than $100,000 a year in their business. So that is six figures, but it's a low six figures. And it may be enough for what they have, but what mindset shifts have to happen to actually get to maybe the upper six figures?
A lot of it has to do with the support and encouragement. Women tend to, at least the ones that I've come around, and I've worked with many of them over the decades, is that scarcity mentality. They don't have to do this alone. And if they have that understanding and they realize that they could scale faster and further if they work together, then they could reach that beyond that six-figure plateau. And so what we try to do is to first is really giving them that encouragement, helping them understand that they can as well as others if they want to. And they can take it to the next level. If they see it, they can believe it. So a lot of it, the mindset is not feeling that you're alone, because they're not alone. There are women just like them that are trying to scale to the next level. So that shifting, having that community, building an ecosystem that is support for all these women and mentoring them and nurturing them when they have an idea and taking them, making those introductions, that's the mindset of accomplishment and support. And that is what we exude in our Women Elevating Women community.
I love that mindset. And, you're talking about support and having an idea and believing that you can scale that idea, that you can build a much more successful business. But then we also get to the numbers too, where oftentimes women tell me in the programs I teach that they don't really understand their numbers, right? That they're, some are intimidated by their numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And that can make a difference because, as I said, your numbers tell a story about the past, about what's actually happening. So how does Woo help people get some understanding? Maybe it's your courage pillar. I'm not sure, but where does that come from?
Pillar. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. In fact, we were honored to have you speak at our last conference. I don't have all the areas of expertise. So what we bring in and what we have on our advisory council as my advisors, I have a CFO, I have a CPA. We bring people in and they present to these individuals. We have pillar meetings, and one of them is the courage pillar, and that's the courage to take care of your wealth, both your business and your personal. So we bring in these outside expertise and they will guide you through the process. We also help them establish their KPIs. This is something that a lot of small businesses neglect. If you don't measure it, you don't know where you're going. We also make sure they have a strategic plan and they have a business plan. So we bring in those resources to meet with them individually and as a group. And what I have found is that sometimes a smaller business, they might be embarrassed over the knowledge that they don't have. We provide a comfort level where they can ask whatever question. No question is a dumb question. We let them ask those questions and we provide them with the necessary resources that they need, because each business is different, so that they can execute effectively.
I completely agree with that. Each business is different, and the numbers, they may have some similar challenges, but some people are going to have more of a challenge in a particular area than another. We all bring a different expertise, or the reason we started our businesses. And you and I both own businesses as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about KPIs. Let's go into that a little more. What's an example of a KPI that will help a business measure, maybe getting, if they're at 100,000, getting to their next 100,000, and so forth?
Well, first, when we talk about the KPIs, they need to have a strategic plan. So if they say, for example, I want to grow my revenues by X%, that's great. That's an objective, but they need to map out how are they going to get there? What are the throughputs that are going to get them to the next level? Does that mean, if they're a service business, does that mean you have to have so many contracts? Do you have to bring on additional members? If they're product based, it's like how many more products that you have to have. Then also you're going to do a timeline. They need to see, are you going to do, because it could be seasonal, depending on what their service or their products are. They need to map out, I'm going to do X amount in the first quarter, X amount in the second quarter, and review those monthly. Those key measurements let them know if they're on the right path. And if they're not on the right path, what adjustments need to take place. And sometimes they're not going to know all that. But that's why they have members, or they have their team, and they'll take a look at each one of those teams. What are you doing to help us scale that business, or what are you not doing? So you have to put those performance measurements in place to track the pace of your business, the scale of your business, and the trajectory. And if it's not there, then you need to know how to pivot. So all these KPIs help them in scaling.
That's great. And so they're selecting KPIs based on their own goals and objectives that they've implemented in their plan. And I know we both think very highly of creating a business plan to help you grow. So how do you introduce that topic to WOO members?
It's one of the very first things we do. We have them, we give them, I, like you, have been through the one-page business plan. I've taken that course. And so we use a version of it for our members. And people think initially they're intimidated, thinking, oh my gosh, I need to have 10, 20 pages. They can go with a simple plan because first they need to get their thoughts down on paper. Because if they don't have it written down on paper, it's hard for them to follow or to track. And so we have them from the very beginning. It's like, okay, what is your strategy? What is your objective? And we want to say, what are the steps you're taking to get to your objective? What are the measurements? So that's day one that we have with our members. And members who have been with us, then we take it to the next level. We have them bring one key objective, because you could have a whole bunch of them. But we ask them to bring one key objective, and they report on that on each one of their meetings. Plus, we assign them accountability partner so they can meet with them, and they get a mentor, because sometimes they can see something or don't see something that an outside person can do it. So we have them bring one objective to start with. We don't want to bring 3 to 5. Let's get one. Start with one, and then we scale it from there.
That is, I think, an awesome insight into getting started. And we're going to take a break. We hope you'll stay with us because Betty's going to talk more about her pillars for success to be able to break 7 figures. And we'll be right back. But Betty's website is wewcrew.com.